All right, welcome back. We're here for another episode of Peach Pit, the most exciting time of the year in the PCH district as we are wrapped up with all of our district events and are staring down the barrel at our district championship event. Bodes to be an interesting time of the season, not only because we're hitting the most interesting event of the year, but we have some new interesting perks with South Carolina teams and Georgia teams really button heads for the first time this season as we get that kind of cross state play for the first time, other than a couple teams crossing the border. So again, a lot of good stuff to talk about here. A little bit of Macon review, obviously some district championship content for a preview, as well as some who we think the top bots are coming into this district championship event. But before we get started, we have to make the usual disclaimer that any views or opinions shared on this show are solely that of the individual contributor and do not reflect the views of Peach Pit, any FRC team, First, Georgia First, South Carolina First, or any of their affiliates and sponsors. So the idea behind the show is that to serve as an FRC talk show that focuses primarily on the Peachtree District. We're going to be talking about a variety of topics, so don't be surprised if you see us drop some hot takes. Ultimately, we're hoping to provide some entertaining and engaging discussions. With that said, we'll go ahead and do some introductions. My name is Sonny Gupta. Kellen Hill.
Hi, Sonny.
Sonny had a brief return here to the show, and then promptly got fired again. He's just too much of a troublemaker. Gotta keep your eye on that guy. But again, I'm Kellen Hill, mentor for Team 1746 Auto. We'll pass along. Thomas, if you wanna.
My name is Thomas Priego. I'm the head of the 6919 fan club. Let's go. three banners this year. 3 banners. No one has more. Ain't no one have more.
Oh,
Good.
I guess I'll go. David Allred, mentor and drive coach for Team 4451 Robots Garage out of South Kakalaki.
I'm Brian Carlson, a strategy mentor for 6829 Ignite Robotics.
And my name is Kyle Fender. I am a mentor with 1746, and I am also the master of ceremonies for Georgia First.
Kyle, it's just like Sonny and Anupam last week. It's awesome to have you back on the show. It's been a little bit. We're happy to have you here.
I'm glad to be here. This is going to be a fun show and a fun week ahead, so I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, you picked the fun one for.
I did.
All right, we're going to jump into a little bit of review on our Week 5 event. We only had one event running this past weekend in Macon, Georgia. We're going to give a huge shout out to our winners that we just got sorted out before the show. But big congratulations.
I know you're trying to give Techno Titans a third banner. I know you keep loving them, and Howard's like we used.
Yeah, they didn't play this weekend. I had to find some way to bump that ego up just before this last district championship event. So it's taking every opportunity possible.
Just to clarify, he had a typo in his notes. So
yeah. So, but typos aside, we did get it corrected. We got Ignite as our captain of the winning alliance with their alliance partners 6919, the Commodores, 4730, the Terminators. Rounding out that alliance. So a huge congratulations to our winners. We then had our finalist alliance for 1261, the Robo Lions, with their first pick, the 1771 North Gwinnett Robotics, and 5219, the Techno Squad, which I think played a pretty awesome role on that alliance as the vice grip of their defense. I make that joke because I think it's awesome that they put a just monstrous vice on that robot to add some weight. So just some
fun fact with this loss, 1771 streak of 5 straight Peachtree events of winning has been snapped.
They actually made a comment. They were at Walton yesterday, actually Sunday, whatever it was. My days are blurred, but yeah,
yesterday would be Sunday.
It's like, yeah, okay, whatever. Anyway, yeah, they were at Walton because we're like, all right, we got to get back on our game. We got to keep up.
The revenge tour.
Yeah.
Also,
All right.
also, that's the thing about streaks. They're made to be built again. So we'll see if that
Okay.
happens, because we are going to talk a little bit about State and the fact that they are the defending champs. So they still have a streak there. So we can talk about that one later.
Mm-hmm. Continue our shout outs here. We had an Impact Award winner of 6919, an Engineering Inspiration Award for 4112 Eaglebots from South Forsyth High School. And we did not wind up having a Rookie All-Star awarded at this event because I think the 2 rookies in attendance had already won previously this season. So with those awards wrapped up, and again, congratulations to all those teams. It was a awesome event for the depth, the quality of matches. I made a comment here. I think that second finals match is one of the loudest cheers at a first event that I've heard in quite a few years. So it was awesome to watch as the scores were posted.
I will say this: when I was watching in the stands, and I know other people might have other opinions, but it was really fun to watch that match. The D-bots were trying to slow people down, but they weren't, and it was just 4 floor bots flying back and forth, and no big collisions and crunches. Each side just doing what they wanted to do, and it was great to see that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was awesome to end on a positive note. I know we had some bumps in the road along the way, for some delays and some interesting things happening there, which we'll touch on in a bit here. But I guess some of those thoughts, and I don't know if we'll let Kyle handle this one, but
Yeah, it's time for the MC to handle this.
Yeah.
Back off.
Oh, of course. I do want to kind of bring up a couple things. I thought it was interesting. This is one of the events that I didn't get to go to, but I got to watch and be part of moderation on our actual Twitch stream. And a couple things that I wanted to talk about. We are, I think, really growing as a district. There's a lot of things that we're really getting to get accustomed to, especially in this district, with the level of competition raising up. And one thing I just want to remind everyone, especially as we go into the district championship, is, let's bring our gracious professionalism into it. Booing referees, booing our volunteers is one of those things that is an ugly moment in Georgia First. It's an ugly moment in our community, because the reality is we build ourselves on the ideals of things like gracious professionalism. We build our ideals on being able to be together as a community. And especially for volunteers, we're not talking about paid professionals that this is their job 24/7. These are volunteers. Like I don't get paid to be an MC. I take my time out from working to go and help with these competitions, same as our referee crew, same as our judges, same as everyone there. And so, we want to make sure, just remember that as you go there, because we're wanting students to get the best experience, and we don't want it to be something that they'll go once and they never want to come back to a first event. So that would be the one of the things I would really want to kind of focus on from this event, because there is a reality that there was a lot of tough calls that had to be made. This game is reminiscent of 2014 aerial assist, or sometimes, aerial assault is the other name.
I didn't like that game.
Hey, listen, it was one of my favorite games, but it is a real thing that there is a lot of tough calls that had to be made by the referees. This game itself, just because of the multiple points of contact that happened within 2.5 minutes, makes it very difficult to make every single call correctly. And, our referees are trying to make their best effort to make those right calls and hear their teams out. Like, the biggest thing is, one, we're always going to try to make the right calls, but then two, everyone's human. We're not dealing with, we haven't pulled the referee team into ChatGPT. We can't do that yet. Until that happens, we're dealing with human beings that are that are fallible. So I would say take that into consideration, especially as we go into this final event of the season. Maybe for some teams, maybe they'll go to Worlds, and it's a real thing. We have to be able to kind of keep our heads on straight as we go into this next event.
Yeah, I want to chime in as an outside observer, a non-paid consultant here. Yeah, double my salary, right? So yeah, ChatGPT would give you an eloquently written wrong answer, but but this game is tough. We are going to review this game in context after the season, and we'll do a retrospective on this game. But the game design committee did no favors to the crew. This is a very tough game. I've seen some really wild calls at a lot of different events. I've watched a ton of video, and it's just crazy the different ways these things have been interpreted and the different ways they've been applied. And I think it just has to do with the game design itself and the fact that everybody's running at 100 miles an hour, cycling across each other. So that GP hat is critical. Respect is critical. Let's go in and have an outstanding district champ. I think this championship, although I haven't been to a Peachtree championship, I think is going to be nuts. This is going to be highly competitive. Just enjoy the experience.
Yeah, and some notes there. And again, just as a heads up to any of our viewers, we are planning to circle around to this topic for what we view as productive conversation to try identifying solutions to which you can help to improve the process. Again, we're talking about humans, and in any sport, and anybody who is a human, I think has a pretty solid awareness that humans are fallible and have the possibility of making mistakes. I know I make my fair amount of mistakes. And it's so much easier to do the Monday morning quarterbacking for saying, well, this was right and that was right. Obviously, if you look at the tape, but the tools at hand don't allow the referees that ability. And the referees are putting in their honest best effort. And I truly believe this as somebody who spent a fair amount of time near the question box this past weekend, is that the referees are putting in their effort to make the right call. I might disagree with it, but that's all I get to do as a team member. I get to help provide the input and the questions we have as a team to say, hey, what about this and that and the other thing? But the refs get to make the final call based on their best judgment, and I appreciate them for volunteering their time and efforts to do what they're doing. But again, we're going to kind of circle back and talk about some efforts that are already in progress in the greater FRC world that might make an impact, or a thing is then David referenced a little bit on things to do with game design of how to avoid certain pitfalls of games that make these calls really difficult for referees to make. The things of that nature that hopefully we can contribute to some positive, productive efforts into providing some possible solutions for these things. Teams obviously have their frustrations when calls are made or reversed or any of those things, but it's again incredibly important to keep that gracious professionalism on hand at any given time. Especially as a mentor, especially as more senior students on your team, you're providing an example for the people that are just getting into this program. You're providing an example for anybody who's attending a first event for their first time. But you're also in these situations, we get an awesome opportunity to teach people from outside of the immediate first bubble about what gracious professionalism is all about, and saying, no, we might disagree with that call, but we're not going to boo, because these are people that are putting in their best effort to make the right call. Maybe they saw something different than we did, but they're putting in their best effort, and that has to be appreciated. So make sure you remember that. And again, I think we're all looking forward to a good district championship event this upcoming week. But yeah, for anybody involved, make sure you're watching match videos. Make sure you're being aware of how certain things are being ruled, just to if at all possible, avoid any of those circumstances that might get anywhere close to that gray area. If you do get anywhere close, you're playing with fire and put yourself at risk of being called on certain things that might risk you losing a match because of it. So
and one thing I would definitely suggest is at whether it be at the district championship or even at Worlds, I think making sure, and I think you may even see it in an email coming up, hopefully in the next couple days before the district championship. Start asking questions now that will go to the Q&A that will go for our referees for that driver meeting. But then also, I would encourage you guys as matches are going on, as certain calls are being made and everything else, don't be afraid to go to that question box and talk with the head referee, Jan Sperlin, or I don't know if it's going to be her and Greg, but don't be afraid to go and talk with them. They're very willing to talk with students, to converse. That's like Kellen said, like David said, like one of the biggest parts about the first community is we have a forum to being able to discuss whether and to agree or disagree. Like we learn through this program about how to civilly debate / lawyers / figure out our case.
Yeah.
So don't be afraid to go to that question box and ask some questions, because they're more than willing to to give an idea of what is going on, because we want to make sure if you advance from our district championship that you are the most equipped team that you can be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm going to double down on what Kyle just said is make sure you're participating in those the referee driver team meeting questions. If you have any questions or concerns about how calls are going to be made this upcoming week at district champs, get them out there. Make sure you're incredibly aware of them. I know the referees are going to be putting in an honest effort to make sure teams are aware of how those calls are going to be made. Obviously, they had to make some real tough calls this past week, but they're going to lay out as clearly as they can how those situations are going to be called, so teams are best equipped to be ready for those situations and avoid those situations. So make sure you're putting in your best effort as well, and hopefully we all put on a good show and have a good time at this district championship event. But
yeah,
all right.
So
with that,
Kellen, what do we have? What are the good notes about Macon? What are some of the good notes?
That's what I was going to say. We're going to turn a corner here and talk about some of the awesome things that happened this past weekend. So I think one of the more interesting notes is we made like for the ranking point game. I think we saw an interesting evolution this past weekend in Macon. The charging station RP did tail back a little bit to just still higher than average, I think, on the season. We had seen the highs happen at Hartsville and Carrollton in week 4 for 50 and 55% of instances at those events wound up getting those charging station RPs. Whereas in Macon, that number dropped down to about 44, 45%. But at the sustainability, that link RP, we went from 0% at Albany, 0% Anderson, 0% Dalton, 0.93% at Gwinnett for a single match happening, to then a quick jump up to week 4. Again, Hartsville and Carrollton kind of setting the pace of 6%, 6.25%. Of link RPs being 6% of matches having those link RPs, but that number jumped to 12% at Macon, and that's quite a jump for a district event. But I think that number is going to hop up pretty significantly at this district championship event. We're going to have 50 teams, so it's a little bit bigger, but I think there's going to be some awesome depth that's going to really contribute to that link RP happening much more consistently, especially if you want to lock up that number 1 seed. You need to be chasing those links.
And so I think part of the drop in the charge station RP was thanks to Robots Garage 4451 and Macon Magic 1102 showing some multi game piece autons. And I know there are several teams that were trying to work on those at at Macon. So some of those balances were sort of given to other bots so they could work on some things, and so that may have contributed to that. So and I did see some video of other teams not at the event working on multi-piece. So 1102 and 4451, you got some people coming for you.
Setting the trends, putting that peer pressure on.
It's almost
All the
like
cool
we
kids are
never
doing it.
expected it.
We had no clue until you did it. We were blind. We're like, what? Right?
Wait, you can score more than one game piece?
Oh, I mean,
Wow, that's pretty cool.
score one, go triple D.
Never thought of that.
Yeah, we got to try that out. I'll let the game know.
Oh my gosh.
Okay.
So I do want to, before we get off Macon, one of the things I kind of want to talk about before we get into district championship is, what do you think the depth looked like at Macon in terms of being able to create that perfect alliance with that second robot? Because there was a lot of different situations that I think we saw at Macon where I think different combinations would have fared a little bit better in making a sustainable alliance from that second bot pick. There were some also mess ups with their first picks as well. So what do we think about depth at the Macon event? How did it play out?
So I thought that, there was a good clump of bots together there at the top, right? And there were 4 to 6 range, right? So you had some stuff, really good stuff there. But the other interesting thing is the 3 bot, right? Your second pick, they had a lot more flexibility in what they could do in their alliance in the mid seeds, right? Where they could play a lot more effective strategies during different matches. Flip up, they can do, try scoring 3, playing D. They can play D differently and stuff like that. I thought that, and I think in general, a lot of people think if you go through the upper bracket, you get there in the end. That bottom bracket, when you start getting down there, I think is a little more unexpectedly than people thought. There's a lot of good alliances that are coming down there, and early in the season we saw 7 defeating 2, 7 taking over 2 in some different competitions. So that 3 bots could be very, very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I can tell you we were excited to get 1002 on the backside of this draft. Per our numbers, they were one of the better, just only cube scoring robots. That was their specialty. But getting a competent offensive robot on the backside of a draft, and we were the 4 seeds, we got a little bit easier reach there than some of those top alliances. But I think that only lends, I think, more excitement to this district championship event to see what that depth is going to look like, because you not only get all the top teams at the event at the event that are going to fill out a lot of those first and second spots on alliance, but you get some real awesome robots filling out that then third spot on your alliance, and scouting is going to make a difference. But at this Macon event, again, like in our case, I got to give a shout out to our scouts, is that we picked 1002, and I think they were the 26th or 20, I forget what it was, but they were the, I think, second last ranked team at the event, either due to circumstance or not having the robot work.
They had a really rough schedule. Their schedule was
A gauntlet.
brutal.
Is truly a gauntlet.
But and this is, I think, just points out the importance of scouting. Is like we were crossing our fingers for, I think, like 6 or 7 picks in a row that these guys were so high up on our that pick list. Is how many teams are going to miss this pick, and we really lucked out in getting the circuit runners as that third bot. So. But yeah, again, leading into district champs, I think that only gets more and more important, because if you miss that, it's really going to leave another more valuable team on the table for a higher seed to probably pick up, because somebody's paying attention. I can guarantee that.
I think so.
I do think I kind of zoned out for a second, but I do think from a personal standpoint that the 1261 picking 1771 was a misplay.
Yeah.
At least looking at our data, there were 4 really top tier teams. 6919 was at the top. 6829 was close second. Then it was like 1261 and 1771 were 3 and 4. And so 1261, the number 3 bot going and picking the number 4 bot while ignoring and letting the 1 and 2 bots get together. I think that was a strategic blunder that ended up causing the results we saw in finals. I do.
Okay.
I mean, you're not wrong, but I'm just like, I almost think it's not even just skipping 6829 to 6919. I mean, I feel like if 1261, while they had a couple good matches, but there was definitely a little bit of shakiness. So I think realistically, it would have made more sense to have a partial scorched earth here, at least with 1261, to allow for maybe a little bit of separation of that inner picking for the Macon event.
So
I feel like that would have helped.
That was talked about.
Right. There was one monkey wrench that threw into the whole thing, right? And that was in our 11th and 12th match, we had problems with our robot, right? So it wasn't as if we were performing like we were in the previous 10 matches, right? So that's one of the things that went into their decision, right? Because
that, and I don't think you are the only ones. I think 1771 I think they were in a match with us where their limelight went out, so they weren't at the top of their game.
They don't have a limelight.
Huh? I said 1771, Thomas.
They don't have a limelight. They have a random camera from India.
They're using photon vision.
Sorry, their camera went out. But so from what I was aware of, it seemed like 1261 had I personally, I think anybody would have been crazy to say no to 1261. I think they rocked it this weekend. They were one of the most consistent teams at the event. I think they had a brand new intake, which makes it all the more impressive. But I think it's hard to say no to that robot. I know there's some strategic decision making in there to disallow 6829 and 6919 pairing up. But to give them their credit, I mean, the 2 finals matches were decided by a total of 14 points. So a 1-point loss and then a 13-point loss. That I think they still made a good pick in 1771. I don't think that was a huge gamble or a huge whiff.
I don't think the pick was wrong. I just think you wait. I just think you wait, especially if it's 6829 and 6919. If they already made possibly, we have a 6829 person here to possibly verify. But in theory, if 6829 and 6919 already knew that they were going to pair together, in theory, 1261 could have messed that up and then gone for 1771. Just saying.
We would have said yes.
That's what I'm saying.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you don't say yes,
so just so for the record,
it falls off pretty fast. So
we were, at the end of day one, we were looking a lot at those 2 at 1261 and 6919. How you rank them and everything, that's fine. All right. They were putting up a little higher scores and more consistent than 1771 and 1746. 1771 had some higher highs, but they had some lower lows. They are still trying to work their bot out, right? And at the first pick, I'm looking for a little more dependability, right? But if 1771 gets their stuff working like it can, it's gonna be hard to beat those 2, right? So, I think whoever
and I think with 1261's consistency, I think they could afford a little bit of a gamble for saying, well, 1771 might not be the consistent option, but if they're hitting big.
It's a high ceiling.
I don't think a scorch was going to happen because I think you get asked, you say yes.
I do think this is where I disagree with Brian. Based on my conversations with some mentors from 1771 and various other sources at the event, there was a really tangible situation where a 1771 would say no to a 1261. The issue they run into is they were ranked 4th, so they would have ended up being the odd man out, which is once they realized, okay, we're locked into 4th, there's no real way we're going to be the odd man out here, we have to say yes. But there is a situation where 1771 says no.
Well,
What I do think is awesome about this, I think the Macon event more specifically in comparison to the Gwinnett event is I think at Gwinnett you saw a couple teams that really specialized in a particular game piece that you needed more of we only do this, so we have to pick somebody that can do this. I think it was really awesome to see a lot of these top teams. So many of them played both game pieces so proficiently, it didn't really matter. And I think we're only going to see more of that this upcoming week in Emerson.
Is it a good time to segue to that then?
Yeah, let's
You're
roll
done.
it. District
There was some interesting
championships,
points
huh?
made that are going to play out slightly differently this coming.
So,
Yeah.
should we announce our defending champs?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So the captain would be 1771 North Gwinnett Robotics from Suwanee, Georgia. The first pick would be Team 2974 Walton Robotics from Marietta, Georgia, from Walton High School. And then finally, we have Team 7315, the Giganites. And I'm trying to find where they're from right now, and I feel bad.
They're from Albany, Georgia, and they are not competing this year.
Yep.
All right. Well, so those are our returning champions, and so we go back into the depth of the event. Like, there's a real shot at the depth of this event building out an insane double elimination tournament here. Like, how many teams do we have that could go all the way to our finals where we could
nuts.
see?
I'm just gonna say here, I think at district champs, the number 1 overall seed will not win the event. I'm gonna say it again. I am predicting it with a high degree of certainty. I think the 1 seed is not going to win. On top of that, I also feel like because of the depth at champs, that the 4, the 5, the 4 and the 5 seeds, where you're still kind of getting that top end scoring threat with who we have in this district, and you can also grab the primo third bot picks. Those guys are going to be killer, and I expect those alliances to be a lot more dangerous than most teams are expecting.
So Thomas, real quick, how many dozens of donuts are you going to put on this?
Yeah,
Let's start there.
To repeat
dozen?
what I say anytime.
No.
To repeat my statement to the judge, Tom Cleveland, I do not provide donuts. I get donuts and T-shirts provided to me.
Yeah,
No,
we
no, no,
consume
no.
the donuts.
We consume them. We do not provide them. So for that case, I will not.
So you
I will
don't
not make a
trust
wager.
yourself that way.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Let me. And internally with 1746, we gamble with cans of garbanzo beans. So I'll be willing to put 10 cans on this.
Oh, wait, no.
Krispy
Let's-
Kremes or nothing.
No. Let's go Krispy Kremes. I'm also willing to go for Coca-Cola, great sponsor. Georgia
10
First
cans of
Robotics.
garbanzo beans. That's my bet.
Finally.
1 seed will not win. Michael
No.
Aguilar, looking at you.
No, or we could bet Atlanta United tickets as well. Show me
I'm
how
a college
confident you
student,
are.
man. You think I can afford Atlanta United's tickets?
You can afford these insane takes, though. That's what I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
That's right, because I have nothing to lose.
Okay, valid.
So
But If for anybody paying attention, and we're recording this on Monday, but it looks like the team list of 50 is pretty well set. So make sure you're starting to look at that list to see who's going to be at the event and start doing some pre-scouting to know who you're playing against, especially for South Carolina teams scouting Georgia teams and the other way around as well. Some exciting news. I think Hartsville match videos were just getting uploaded to Georgia First YouTube page today. So make sure you get out and watch some of that if you're trying to get some numbers on those South Carolina teams. I know our scouts are busy watching away. But yeah, looking through that list, I was just jotting down. I'm like, these guys won an event. These guys won an event. This team, the finalists at a couple events. But that list got pretty long pretty fast. And I think it bodes well for an exciting double elimination tournament. And I think I'm in agreement with Thomas. I think that third bot is going to be incredibly valuable. But I think the two things that are going to have the biggest factor on the outcome of this weekend is the qualification schedule. Who gets the luck of the draw on that on those pairings? And then for those alliance captains, kind of like Thomas was referencing, for those middle of the pack alliance captains, there's going to be so much payoff to good scouting at this event. That, as well as the strategy to know how to use those robots. Like if you're trying a triple offense strategy, sounds great. How are you managing traffic? How are you making sure your teams aren't slowing yourself down more than they're slowing down the other alliance? Be putting the effort in. Yeah, set a pick.
Set a pick.
Put the effort into those conversations with your team beforehand to say, all right, if this is the strategy, these are the qualities we're looking for in a robot, to make sure you're scouting for those things. Because again, you're going to have the pick of the world for these first and second round picks. So
I also would like to add that if you don't have the resources to scout yourselves, I'd recommend using the Statsbotics website. They end up having really, really useful data that can get you on the right track. On top of that, there are many a team, 1746 included, that if you ask, they'll provide you raw scouting data that you can use to help make your own decisions. So the world is quite literally your oyster. If there's really no reason to have that to not be informed.
I would agree with you there, as well as I would say one of the other things you can do as well, to be able to ask another team in terms of their scouting data. But I would also say that's one of the great things about DCMP as well, is be able to contribute yourself. Provide, maybe if you have some extra students that may be sitting in the stands that are like wanting to maybe learn a little bit more about the game from a different aspect, have them maybe possibly contribute as scouts to the other team, and maybe that can help as well. So it's a collaborative effort that, and like Thomas said, world's your oyster at this point, especially at DCMP.
And if you have any questions, go out and you know of a team that you think, oh, hey, they seem to have really awesome like pre-match data on the other teams. Ask those teams if you have any questions to say, how do you come up with that data? What are you looking for in these robots? And I'm sure a lot of them are willing to share those details. And I'm sure it took them a while to get to where they're at, but it all started somewhere. So feel free to ask those questions.
As a matter of fact, at Macon, one of the pit scouting questions was, what's your scouting process like, right? So there are a lot of teams out there that have that. If you come to Ignite, we'll also share some data with you too. The Statbotics website is statbotics.io. It's not .com. And also be aware that's a season aggregate, so it's also going to be impacted by the early season. So just be aware of that when you're looking at it.
And if producer Ian is listening, hopefully we can get that website, statbotics.io, linked in the description.
Everybody do the links right here.
He's gonna hate us if he's not listening.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, man, we're YouTube bloggers.
We're sorry, Ian, but we're not sorry.
Let me
So-
throw in a few more things about scouting for just a minute. And let me throw in some things. So, what are you scouting for, right? So, strategy. The best way I've heard strategy described is a theory of how to win in a marketplace or whatever it is. It's a theory. So if you don't have a theory right now of how you're going to win, you can't scout because you don't know what you're scouting for. So start with your theory and then scout to fill those roles. And so the stats are fine, but that's only about half of what you need. The other half of what you need to know is where do they pick up game pieces? How do they can they drive over the charge station? Do they drop game pieces? What's their autonomous, right? And I want to go back to a point I made in I think the very first show after the kickoff, which is auto balance is the most important skill you can have. So if we don't have 24 auto balance robots out of the 50, I will be disappointed. So if you're working on anything, I know we're recording this Monday night, but if you're working on anything and you don't have an auto balance, please get one.
24 out of 50 auto balance.
Only if you want to play. How about that?
Yeah. The number one thing as a third bot that you can have at DCMP is being able to balance an autonomous
and the in-game.
and an in-game. That's
what happens in the middle is whatever.
Yep. The other thing is this is the first time playing with a bunch of friends we haven't met yet, right? South Carolina and Georgia. On load in and on day one, there's team social, I think on Thursday, right? Start meeting the other teams that you're seeing for the first time, right? I think we're trying to get together burgers and bots for Thursday night. Mentors, start talking to everybody else, because as you start getting ready to get into alliance selection, having conversations beforehand is going to be important, and you need to start having those, meeting people early on.
Yeah. And so right now, I think our breakdown as of right now is 14 South Carolina teams and 36 Georgia teams, with even one returning member technically to our district being 1102 making magic. So this is definitely going to be, especially when we talk about scouting, I'm really wondering how many teams have really taken the effort to go back through and go look at Hearts, from the Georgia side, how many oh, wow. How many teams has taken the effort to look at Hartsville, to look at Anderson before district championship? Because here's the thing, if you don't already know that, it's not just going to be the usual suspects in our top 8 that you would have seen at any of our other, district championships from years before. We have a perennial powerhouses like an 1102 or 4451 coming now into our ranks. So now we have to actually be on our P's and Q's. If you're a Georgia team, if you want to get out, you have to understand about these new teams coming into play. So especially when you get into the alliance selection, like my honest thought is there's going to be a shot where a Georgia team that has been paying attention with their scouting chooses the South Carolina team. It's like the piano music's playing and it stops. Everyone looks around. It's like, okay, we did not expect this. Now we're all kind of off balance of how to choose these teams.
It's going to be fun.
Yeah, I think as Brian mentioned, get out and make friends, make connections early. In some exciting news for PCH team or Georgia teams, I think more specifically, we did get practice matches at this event on Thursday, and a little bit of a twist compared to some past, a couple past PCH district championship events, is that I believe qualification matches wind up starting on Thursday night. So make sure you're prepped and ready for those starting that evening, as well as then obviously a full day Friday and Saturday morning. But yeah, a little bit different schedule compared to the obviously district events, but as well as at least last year's Peachtree District Championship. I think it was small enough to only need Friday and Saturday morning quals matches. But yeah, take advantage of every opportunity for those practice matches, as well as any of that pit time or team socials, as Brian was saying, to build out those connections.
And ask your questions early too. Like we said in the beginning, you have a shot. Make sure to be looking at those rules. Send your questions to the Q&A to our referees. That way, when we get to referee meeting, that driver meeting, that your questions will get answered. You guys can start to make those considerations.
Yeah. There's going to be that gray area. Let's make those gray areas as clear as possible before we get to them. So.
And to sort of wrap up with the get to know people, if you want to find out about burgers and bots and stuff like that, you could ping Kellen, and if you're not on PCH Mentor Slack, to get on there, or if you're at the event, come to Ignite's robotics pit, and we'll probably have the information there for mentors to socialize in the evening.
Also, for students, I would definitely suggest you go to the team social. It's going to be a great event. It's going to be a great event, lots of food and fun and activities. So I would definitely encourage you guys to go to the team social.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite events of the year is when we do our end of season banquet with our team. And I think it's so awesome because you get a chance to slow things down a little bit and not have the robot and what's next being such the thing that's on the hot burner that requires 100% of your attention. So I think things like the team social, especially where you get to connect with your peers from other teams, is an awesome way to really build out your first network and get familiar with teams and students from other teams. To really take advantage of that opportunity, because these are really cool people doing really cool things.
So Kellen,
very worthwhile.
So speaking about what's next, what do you think the number 8th seed, the 8th ranked team will need to have ranking points? You think they're going to be 3.5, 3.0?
Number 8.
I don't know I don't think the number 8 seed is going to be above 3.
Ooh,
it's going to be more
really?
Like
really?
2.4, 2.5.
I think it's going to be somewhere between 2.5 and 3, but it's not going to be that high. I think we're going to see a lot more link RPs, but we're not going to see that many more link RPs.
Because right now, if we look back at Macon, right, the ranking score that you had to get 14-14 IHA to get into a captain spot was right about 1.83. So you think it's only going to be basically a slight bump up into the 2s for that ranking score?
About a half point.
About a half point. Okay.
Yeah, it's not going to be a whole point, a point and a half or something crazy thing like that. It's going to be about a half point.
Now, the other question is, do you think with the speed of the game, that was one thing we didn't talk about with Macon that I think we really should talk about with DCMP. The game's getting faster, and I think teams are getting more wise to how effective defense is going to basically mess up an ideal cycle time. So realistically, do we think that, yes, I think more teams are going to be in tune to the fact that they need to be paying attention to their link RPs, but are we going to have more situations where we're going to have contact in the middle of that field where we're going to have basically a lot of blockages where we're either going to have teams miss out on link RPs just because, the chaos of the match kind of basically helps them to forget, or is it going to be where their cycle times are messed up enough where they just don't have the resources to get it done between the maybe 2 offense, 1 hybrid to be able to get it done for a match?
This is where I think pre-scouting is so huge, is that you can really come into any of your quals matches and say, all right, based on these teams' last event or their numbers coming in, can we expect to pull off five links in this match? Is this a match where we can feasibly go for a 4RP match. What does our opponent look like? Is this a safe match for us to win that we can really focus on? All right, let's go ahead and fill out that hybrid row. It might be less points, but it's going to get us that RP.
Well,
That
yeah,
that scouting
So-
details.
I don't think you'll need the 5 links to get it this time because you'll have.
Well, no, because you're
Hold
going to have hooligans like Brian over here on the other lines.
So yes, I was playing this. So our first match on day 2 was against Otto and 1261, and we were battling out with 1261 trying to get the 1 seed. Right, they had a favorable schedule on day 2, and I knew the loss was going to come. And we went in, and it's like, we're not putting anything in the community zone. We're going to make them go to 5, and they got their 5. They with 1 second left of free time, they popped 1261, got the last link that was on the ground, pushed it in. By the way, very good driving by seeing that, and they got their 5th. They got their 5th link. That's happening at Macon, and we have more bots. I think you're going to start seeing it more. I think 5 becomes easier than you think.
Oh,
It's,
yeah,
it's an awesome mind game to play, just to say, all right, we know we're going to take a loss here, but we can make it harder for you to get that bonus RP.
Right.
Because we know we're not going to get it. We're going to focus on getting our 1 balance RP, but we're going to make it hard for you to get it.
I still think the if you whatever the bottom tier is of these bots, they're I expect them to be more than just a pancake that just sits there, right? They're going to be contributing, and so you could get most of a link from that 3rd bot. So your top 2 bots.
The trick there is when you really start planning around that triple offense is traffic management, traffic management.
Okay.
So.
But this isn't quals. It's still traffic management, but there's not a lot of active D.
There's two things here in play, right? One is, what do people want to show in quals? So will there be defense in quals? And if so, was that a request, or is that somebody wanting to show it? So the people wanting to show it, that's got their heart into it, they could make it hard on us because that's what they want to be. That's their theory to win by joining an alliance as a good defender. I'm not sure how many of the 50 will be doing that, but I'm assuming several will be doing that strategy during qualifications.
Yeah.
But people denying the middle 3 game pieces. That may be 4 robots in out of the whole 50 try to do that kind of mind game.
Well, that and it becomes much more clear to do that like on Saturday morning because you know where rankings are.
If you
and
didn't listen to Thomas, and I agree with Thomas. If you get to the number 1 spot, is that where you want to be in this event?
Throwing is against the rules. I do not advocate for throwing or any team.
No, I'm not asking
considering
to throw. No.
It's not like it hasn't happened before at a PCH event. Just saying.
First, you're not walking away with this event. Period.
Listen,
yeah,
it's not like it. We haven't seen throwing at a PCH event before. It's happened before.
For legal reasons, we are not advocating for throwing.
Yeah,
we are not
for legal reasons.
I'm just talking about the rank point mind game with them.
Yeah.
Okay, knock yourself out. Do that.
I'm putting it on the board right now. Do not throw. This is an official announcement. Do not throw any matches. We do not endorse this.
Well, and 1261 would have picked us. We would have said yes, right? We would be perfectly happy there, right? It always comes down to I always rather have the decision be mine than somebody else's, right? And so there might be a better chance at winning in the middle there, but I don't think it's a greater chance than the 1, 2, 3. They just have a better chance than what we've seen before with other games. There's just not a drop off.
Particularly compared to last year, you don't have the team like 1771 that is just the clear target of like this is the best robot in the state. This year you got a pretty substantial argument going on for who that robot is. I think there's enough shuffling around for teams to have a fair shot at that number one spot in the district. So a lot of crazy things happening, I think, here leading into week 6 at our district championship event. Let's see. What else do we have on the docket? We have
we were going to complain about Thomas's top 5, weren't we?
No, not yet.
not quite yet. Not
Oh, yeah.
quite.
Not yet.
Okay.
We
Yeah,
will get there.
We got
We
got to
will
get
take
more
our
stuff to
time.
complain about first. Then we'll
Yeah,
get
no,
there.
No, it's like a sweet steak. You gotta allow it to
Oh,
marinate.
is it coming off the grill?
I don't know what steaks you're eating, but I do not particularly like my steaks to be sweet. I prefer them to be savory. I would like that to get pointed out.
Unless it's a
You're making me
donut.
hungry, man. Dang it. Uh-oh. Can I say that?
All right. One other topic we have here, at least for district champs, is how many district points will it take to get to Houston? We got a number of changes in the district this past year that make it hard to really directly compare to a prior year. But we've already got some interesting numbers. I think it already took more points this year just to get into district championships. I think some of the last teams in are closer to 60 points, or at least the high 50s compared to last year, or it was 2019 when it was closer to 50 points.
Yeah, I think a lot of that had to do with the less crossover between the two states, and so you basically had you had a 1-3 going on for some teams. You had 2-5, and you have 2-4 and 3-5, and 2-4 and 3-5 were heavily replicated, and so you sort of had the same team sort of pairing up, everybody getting better, but everybody sort of clumping together with the same alliances. Both of those are similar, and so in 2019 you had a lot more mixing and matching, where you might be paired up with one bot and get a certain score and certain district points, and you went to a different event with different robots, and then you would team with somebody else and you get a different score. So I think that's what's led to a lot of these higher scores we're seeing coming into district champs. I mean, right now at going down to the number 10 spot. I'm at the wrong one. Where's it at?
The 10 spot is you in district points right now. If we're looking at district points right now,
Yeah,
you're in 10th spot. 11th is like 343 Metal in Motion. 12 is like Robo Lions, 1261.
yeah. So, you're at 100 and basically right around 115 points at the 10th spot, and everything's tripled at district champs. So showing up, get ranked, get picked, that's normally right around 25 to 30 points just to get to the playoffs. Triple that's 90 points. We're looking at the 90 points onto 130 points for the number 7 spot, which is come somewhere around in that area. You're going to be for the number of teams that go 220, 230, maybe as high as 240. It's gonna be really insane to see what happens here.
Yeah. I know we're in the boat where you pretty much got to swing for the fences and try winning the thing outright.
Yep.
Just with the amount of district points we've had through our first couple events. So
Yeah. I'm glad where we're at, but anybody in the top 10, you better keep going, because there's no guarantees there.
No.
And if anybody wants a prime example of that, look no further than 2018 Team 1746. We went into PCH champs thinking we were all that. We were ranked top 5. We were on great, and we had the idea to completely change our robot. And then we didn't make worlds by 5 district points. So keep your foot on the gas. Keep going. Don't sit there kicking yourself saying, "Oh, we could have done more."
except you, 1683, you can get complacent. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
You're doing great.
You're just gonna
Doing
walk
great.
across the stage.
Yeah.
That 3-game piece Auton, trust me, you don't need any
Don't-
more tuning.
You don't need it.
Also,
Yep.
1771, you're good. Don't worry
Yep.
about it. Don't
Yeah.
worry about it.
I'm sure they're doing nothing.
With that being said, are you guys ready to hear the
No.
Thomas Priego 100% correct
Wait,
top
Yeah, not yet.
PCH
Nope,
top
the
five?
MCs.
Oh.
Not yet. We got some teams to talk about before we get to your insane picks. We still have some stuff to talk about. There are 17 spots going to Worlds from the Peachtree District, and a lot of them are going to go to some of the awards that we're giving out there. So let's talk about Impact Award. Who do we have that are contenders there that could possibly come out from the district this year?
Well, to start, we have 1683 Techno Titans are one of our, I think, Impact Award winner Albany. We have 3489 category.
Nope,
Correct
Viper
me.
Drive actually. Wait, it says Viper Drive officially on FRC on their page. I don't know why.
3489 is category 5.
3490, I think, is Viper Drive, right?
3490 is Viper.
One number off. Yes. We then have 1648 Midtown or G3 Robotics. 7538, I think, is Metal Mountain.
Correct. Yes, that one is correct.
Then we have 7451 for Alliance, who are the Avengers. We have 8575. Correct me again, or I'll defer
Avengers
to David here.
is
That's
the
8575 is the New Westerners.
The Westerners.
South
I've
Carolina.
heard a lot of good things out of them.
Oh,
and then on top of that, 7451 is the defending PCH Impact / Chairman's Award winner.
Ooh. Ooh.
And then we to close that up, we then have 6919 winning most recently this past weekend, the Impact Award winner at Macon. So some stiff competition there. Some like perennial contenders who have been at it for years, as well as some people that are new to the Impact culture game. But again, if you're winning these events or these awards at your events, you're doing something right. And I think the judges will have a quite a handful for the process of trying to pick two of those teams for that Impact Award to move on to Houston.
Especially for a lot of these teams, a big part that I noticed in a lot of their chairman's essays or even some of their chairman's videos is what they've done in terms of sustainability, especially as a Georgia team or South Carolina team coming out from COVID. There was a lot of focus on making sure that these teams were well built for the long term. And I like a lot of what these contenders from these 7 different contenders really kind of focused onto sustainability, especially teams like 7451 Avenger Robotics. A big part of their stance was about sustainability. Even I really love what 1648 has done over the years to really not just have a sustainable program, but to have a very inclusive program for everyone that comes even near their program or hears about their program. They've really focused on things like sustainability and inclusivity. So I think we have a really great set of contenders for this year's Impact Award.
Yeah, and I want to talk about 6919. I had a chance to visit them last year at the Albany competition and go to the C4 event and talk with the principal of the C4 Academy there and what they're doing with the Commodores and the community in general and how they're promoting STEM and post-secondary education, not just, trying to get students to figure out what college major they want to go to. Additionally, the surprising fact that a lot of people don't realize, outside of Atlanta, Albany has the most number of basically FRC teams there. And that has been a lot of the effort by 6919. So I look forward to seeing what they do, and I really respect what the program they've built over the years. That's not to say anything about the other teams. I just happen to know about that one specifically.
I mean, did you see their video on this last weekend at Macon? Like, just hearing about what they were doing in terms of creating a storefront to be able to help students become entrepreneurs, to learn that skill, as well as being able to help in terms of bring in fruits and vegetables into that community. That was amazing to hear, because I think I would say with 6919 in the Albany community, one thing that they've really done well is it's always great to hear about how teams are affected or how teams affect communities outside of their community, whether it be overseas, whether it be even with just rookie teams in their area. But Albany has really taken a step where I've seen a real step forward in their community. And it's so enlightening to see just the excitement that you see from even the people in Albany that may not know about FRC, but they'll come to the event and be like, this is amazing. I want to get involved. Or, hey, this is amazing. Like, how do I get my kids involved in this? Or how do I contribute as a sponsor to this? Albany has made a small town effort into a large catalyst for not just their team, but for their community overall. And I think that small town aspect for Albany is amazing. They just done so much for what they do in Albany.
And the same thing's going on in Dalton too, right? With Shaw Carpet and working with the school district and basically allowing the students to grow up in their community, get their education, and then have, basically workforce development for that community. Basically keep your roots, build the relationships, develop the skills you need in school for either degree type pathway to get employment or to be able to get the training you need to to be able to stay in your community and family. It's those kind of programs that a lot of these teams that have an impact that are just beyond just how many check boxes you mark off on some of the programs that they measure. It's the secondary impact that people don't really realize.
Yeah. No,
Gotcha.
Yeah, and I think the two South Carolina contenders are contenders. They have very strong programs all up and down the first family and in their communities. One being in the Charleston area, and then one being in a rural area up in the upstate. Don't sleep on these teams. Now, just again as a reminder to everybody in the Peachtree District, the 17 slots and the 2 impact slots and all, they're not allocated by state. This is the Peachtree District. And
right.
so it could be all Georgia teams. It could be all South Carolina teams. I don't think that's how it's, I don't know how it's going to play out, but it could be that way. It has no impact or no reflection on you. Okay. Right. It's just you're up against the competitors in the district.
And I will say this, the one thing I really love about the change from chairman's to impact was the focus on impact your community. So those small teams and small towns that couldn't compete with a team that created 65 FLL teams, they had no shot. Right. In this new format, it's what can you do in your community, and everybody has a shot.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Well, moving on a little bit, and David mentioned a couple of South Carolina teams. There were a few of these Impact Award winners that actually double dipped in those cultural awards, and we have 3 of those Impact Award winners also earned Engineering Inspiration Awards, which I think, looking back in my records, I think has only happened. There have only been 2 other occurrences of teams double dipping for winning a chairman's and EI in the same season prior to this year. So that there are 3 this year is pretty impressive. Talks again the quality of some of these programs, and both of those South Carolina programs that David mentioned actually won both a chairman's Impact Award and EI. So that 3489 and 8575 both earned both awards during the season. So they've kind of obviously it's I think priority number 1 is that awesome programs keep up the work you're doing. That by a mile is the most important thing, but it's also earned these teams another shot at getting a ticket punched to Houston. But in addition to those 2 South Carolina teams, we have 7451 from Cumming, Georgia, just down the street for Avenger Robotics, also earning an Engineering Inspiration Award. So it'll be really interesting to see how judges wind up looking at these teams and determining all right, which two are going to get Impact Award and which ones are going to get EI. We've also got the 4 other impressive programs in 4188 Columbus Space Program. 1746, we wound up earning that award at our Gwinnett event. Really proud to have done so. We have 2974 Walton Robotics, as well as 4112 from South Forsyth, the Eaglebots.
So you have
I think,
three Forsyth teams in contention for EI.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah. I mentioned that to Rick Folia, one of the guys who helped start 1746, and pretty much the entire body of what is now Forsyth County Robots from the ground up, who really got the ball rolling way back when. But just for how awesome it is to have 3 teams from the same county or in our county to be competing for that Engineering Inspiration Award. So again, I can't imagine the judges having to make a decision between these programs. But again, 2 spots for Engineering Inspiration Award. We'll move on to World Championship. Again, hard decision to make. Just looking at the list of teams here, we have kind of some of those perennial Impact Award winners, kind of scooting over to that Engineering Inspiration Award. But yeah, again, tough field.
Very. And then we
Kyle,
got
you want to walk us through a rookie all-star?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, we have 4 rookies up for these awards: 9260, 9057, 9293, and then 9315. We have 2 teams from that set that will be attending the district championship. Those would be 9293, which is caffeinated, and I believe 9260 is our other team that will be attending as well.
Built for bib, yeah.
Yes.
So definitely interesting. If I'm not wrong, if I was looking correctly, 9260, is it a continuation of the former RoboBib team 4941? I'm guessing, possibly.
Yep. Yeah, I recognize at least a couple of their mentors from some participation there. So.
And also, that would be the same with Team 9293 Caffeinated. There's a couple of those students as well that have had that experience within the FRC program as well. So it's nice to see. It's nice to be able to see some really good rookies that definitely will bring some experience. I liked what the students specifically from 9293 were able to do within the Gwinnett event, and being able to have a pretty reliable robot that could act as that second robot. So I'm very interested to see what they're going to do at the district championship, as well as 9260 as well. So it's going to be a very deep field, and the rookies definitely will help with that. So let me make sure we don't talk about Thomas's picks yet, right? Are we going to talk about our picks?
Maybe not. Let's he can wait.
Yeah, he can wait. Yeah, no, that works.
What's next on the agenda?
I mean, normally we talk about some of like our picks and standouts and dark horses for the event, but I think it makes more sense to wait until after Thomas's top picks.
Oh, so we can basically destroy his picks.
Yeah,
yeah, and then tell him who we should have picked.
Right.
Good point. I like that.
So for anybody who was watching, I think it was a couple weeks ago. I forget if this wound up getting any kind of review last week. Is we did a little bit of a like PCH top 5, who we thought were some of the best robots in the district. But we're gonna mix it up a little bit. We like a little bit of controversy here, some hot takes. So what we've done is, and Thomas likes, I think, this level of spotlight. But we put Thomas in the hot seat. Thomas is gonna pick robots that he believes are the top 5 robots in the district. Best chance, I believe, of winning the district championship event this weekend. But we're gonna give our input on what we think is right or wrong about Thomas's list. So we have no idea what Thomas has put down. They're all censored out
5.
here.
Start with any teams that you didn't put in your top 5, but you wanna let us know that they were seen. They were seen.
So, for the record, before I release these rankings, I would like to emphasize that last year, David wasn't one of these people, but I was called a clown, a buffoon, a fool for my top 5 list going into states. And after state,
Other names
I
were
got one
insane.
pick right,
Yeah, keep going.
not
keep
2
going.
picks right, not 3 picks right, not 4 picks right, but all 5 I got correct last year. So don't listen to these fools. I have a 100% track record. Correlation does equal causation. And so with that, we're going to start with some honorable mentions. In no particular order, my honorable mentions were teams that I think really highly of, but don't quite crack the top 5. I have 1683. That's for you, Howard. 4451. Sorry, David. 4509. 1261 and 4188. These are all teams that have performed well. 4451 is notable of having won 2 events. 4188 has been finalist and 1 event and won another. Same with 1683. 4509 has been finalist twice and ranked number 1 at Gwinnett. So these are definitely some teams that have a really, really decent shot. They're on the upper crust, but they didn't quite make my top 5. Any questions, comments, or
no
concerns?
comments. I would like to know. I saw 4451 on that list. I would just like to know, what is your bias towards South Carolina teams, and can we expect that to factor into your top 5 list?
There's no bias. I'm not going to complete my statement just because that ruins the list, but there's no Georgia South Carolina bias. I just personally feel from watching the matches I've seen with 4451 and seeing some of the struggles they've had with handing off the game piece, and also them being at a disadvantage at being tank drive instead of swerve, I think that kind of bumps them down. I still think really high of them. You don't rank one twice and win an event twice if you're not a really, really good team. I just don't think they're quite there to be in the top 5.
Okay, so David, I just want you to know from my heart to yours, the Georgia community believes in 4451.
I'm not saying I don't believe with them.
Person.
I'm not saying I don't believe with them. There's 5 teams that can make the list. I'm sorry, David. Like, it is what it is.
No, there's no donuts from David now.
No
Krispy Kremes now.
I agree with Thomas's assessment.
See? Right. All right.
I am right where I want to be. Please,
all righty.
Please doubt me. Please.
That is concerning, but I've already said it, so no backtracking now.
I would just like on the record to show that you're doubting the 2022 Smoky Mountain Regional winners, also Regional Chairman's Award winners. Also, they were a championship division finalist in
That's all happened last year. I don't care about last year. Last year's like the first day at an event. They don't matter.
Well, I will say this. Last year, West Coast Drive was still a thing. I mean, the game has really
West Coast
changed.
Drive, what's that?
Right?
Something that is dead
with this type of drivetrain anymore.
I will say that.
I will agree. The game has changed so much in the span of a year.
Alrighty, are we ready for number
5?
5?
Yes.
So big shocker. Everyone's going to be like, Thomas, you're a fool for this pick. Number 5, robot in the district. You're defending state championships, winner at Gwinnett, finalist at Macon. We have 1771.
Wow, you doubt the amazingness of Chris Wilson.
Their robot is too complex, and it's going to end up being a detriment to them. I said this about teams last year, and I was right, and I will say it again. I think they have a high ceiling, but I also think that floor is awful low. So I'm not comfortable really ranking them any higher than that, and I really look forward. Out of all these teams, I think they have one of the highest pop-off potentials. But that low ceiling, I mean, they tried to grind the rail in several matches at Macon.
Yeah, at least twice, yeah.
So, like, you can't be messing up like that and expect to be ranked high on my list. I'm sorry.
Because your autonomous can't do that. Don't be jealous.
About to say, it's not skateboarding.
Hey, listen, they still grinded the rail, so it is what it is.
I think that's a good pick, Thomas. I think I I have high praise for this robot, but I think 1771 has more of a capability than I think than any team to let their aspirations get in the way of their robot's current performance. I think they have an awesome robot as is, but I know they're a team to keep their foot on the gas, and I think that can be a bit dangerous in circumstances like this when you need to have that consistency through qualifications to be that one of those top seeds.
All gas, no brakes has never hurt anyone, except some people.
Except for the people it's hurt.
I like my favorite quote is from Carol Shelby. There's no such thing as too much horsepower, just not enough traction.
This is true.
Exactly.
Alrighty. Are we ready for number 4, gentlemen?
Yes.
Okay,
Alrighty. With this team, the highest ranked South Carolina team, in my opinion, we have double first pick, double winners, 1102. They have a killer auton that they've showcased consistently at 2 events. I think that historically they've had any reliability concerns, and they do not appear to have those this year based on the limited availability of matches. A lot of Hartsfield hasn't been posted until today, and I have not had an opportunity to watch them. That being said, I think they're really killer. I think they've got a really killer mentor out there, and is John Fogarty. I think he's done really well building that program year on year, and I really think that it should be considered one of the favorites going to the state championship, and that's why I have 1102 at 4.
You mentioned it in your thing. There's the reliability concerns that haven't popped up yet in either of the 2 events. Now, I'm not saying that it will pop up. I'm just saying history repeats itself. I'm going to keep repeating this for every single one of the teams on our list. History does have a tendency to repeat itself. Although I will agree with you. 1102 does seem to is a team that has been not just maturing, but really their focuses in terms of their build process, in terms of how they strategize during the event, everything else has really grown. John has built an amazing program. And so I think that the 4 spot's a good spot for them, because I do believe that they will most likely be, I think that they will be within the top two, and they may not be 2, they may be 1. Just saying.
As a former Alliance member, I think this was 2019, so they were around in 2020, but there was no district championship event that year. That we were a Alliance member of theirs in 2019 at district champs. All I can say is, John, 1102, if you
don't plug a battery directly into your PCM
on your robot, please keep an eye on it.
Do not plug a battery directly into your PCM, please, John.
Or
that act has made me cry on more than one occasion.
Or let's just talk about this. Do it for content. Do this for content.
There is a content buff to the teams that want to get moved up on this list after the after states. Things you can do. Do something funny. I'm a happy guy. I like to laugh. Do something funny, you get mentioned. Rule number 2. To those mentors who are not in the PCH mentor Slack, I do have a sponsorship program that I myself am proud to say, give me donuts, I'll say what you want. Prices may vary based on the statement and quality of the donuts. Rules are in the PCH Mentor Roundtable Slack, and I'm looking to get those. That message should be pinned as of the posting of this video to if you have any questions. I also do take T-shirt sponsorships.
So, by the way, just so you know, since a lot of people who are interested in strategy watching this episode, the lack of clarity in Thomas's rules is wide open to interpretation. I have heard that a certain team,
no mayonnaise no mayonnaise and or sour cream is allowed in the donuts. Any tomfoolery like that will result in an instant disqualification and fine.
But the other mentors the other hosts on this podcast might appreciate it.
And
So it's
appreciate and encourage said tomfoolery.
He started.
See,
alrighty.
okay.
Now, with all the tomfoolery aside, some people are going to call me a really big clown for this one, but I think they're wrong.
Let's see. Let's see.
Number 3, they were third place, part of the third place alliance at their first event. Done really, really well. They ended up winning their second event. Without further ado, I think 6829 Ignite Robotics, number 3 ranked robot in the state. I think they've shown that they have quickly become one of the best, if not the best, cycler in the state. And I really look forward to seeing how they're able to play the game at the DCMP level. I think on top of that, they're one of the teams that I really, really think have it put together when it comes to a scouting and strategy standpoint. I think Brian has said this a couple times. They know how to throw the kitchen sink at people, particularly when they play with us. So, that's a thing. But I really think their robot's fantastic. It's I really like how it follows the KISS method of keep it simple, stupid. Just one stage elevator, one stage little doot thingy, and that intake is quite cool.
Can you do that again, Thomas?
Yeah, just do that again so we can clip
What
it.
the doot?
Yeah, we
No,
need
no,
a
no,
gift.
That's what we want.
Yeah, just do. Yeah. All right, great. Love it.
Alrighty. Any comments on number 3, 6829?
I don't hate it. I like it. I'm kind of depending. Honestly, with Macon, I could honestly move him up to 2.
No, you're wrong.
I would.
You're wrong.
No, not wrong.
You're wrong.
Not wrong.
You're 100% wrong.
No.
You're 100%
No.
wrong.
You know, Thomas, I was expecting to disagree a lot more with your list, but you know what I mean? You're making some good points.
I'm
so far.
great at making
Just-
lists. What can I say? And this list is brought to you by Krispy Kreme Donuts.
Wow. What team was it? What team is this list brought by?
No teams of this is the one aspect that I do not accept sponsorship from. No teams have been sponsoring this list at all. Everything is
What he's
unbiased.
saying is not yet. Please, Commodores, he'd like to have some Krispy Kreme.
No,
Mm.
no, not yet.
Oh,
I think yes, and please, I'm completely serious. Please bring me donuts. I love them. They're the best. I will give you a firm handshake and a warm hug if you provide me with donuts. I am a big fan. And do know that if I don't eat them, they will be consumed by my adoring fans. I mean students.
wow. Okay, we'll talk about sponsorships in a second. What's your second? Your 2 pick. Your 2 pick is going to be very interesting for me because that's going to tell me who you think is going to be in the worst spot at number 1. So
It breaks my heart to say this. This team has the most banners in the state. 3 banner, baby. They've given me a shirt. They are fantastic. I'm a really big fan of them. I think they are, for some reason, the members of this panel always underestimate them. I am number 1 team 6919. I'm their biggest fan. If they don't have a fan, it's because I have died. 6919, you are my people. But unfortunately, you have to be number 2. They have not been performing as well in the ranking game as the team that I have at number 1. And I think the number 1 team is the best driven robot I've seen this year. So I think that 6919, great robot, number 2 robot in the state. Look forward to see what they can do and see how hopefully they can prove me wrong because I am biased. I love 6919. The gap was just too big to kind of squeeze them in at 1.
Well, and to
Okay.
be fair, they brought a new robot to Macon.
Oh,
so
yeah.
it's impressive
Yeah.
that they're at number 2, and I think have room for growth.
So yeah, when they started the season, they took advantage of the bag rule. I think the group of us may have talked about this previously, back in 2019 or 2020 when they took away the bag rule. They saw week 1 and they went week 5, and the plan was, let me build something simple we can get done fast to take to week 1 while they build their district champion bot over the basically a 13 or 12 or 13 week span, and so they did that, and you thought they had a really good bot with their simple and let's just get done fast. The bot they have now is pretty impressive.
Alrighty, are we ready for number one? I think it's
If
kind
you
of
It's
kind of
it's
obvious
it's
at
off.
this point.
It's auto, right?
Yeah, of course. 1746 auto.
Those 3 dozen donuts got to you,
Matter.
right, Thomas?
Nothing matters. Come second, third day
And he
at
built
state.
yet
we'll
a
be there.
third robot.
It's true. No. I think auto. They're not even in my auto honorable mentions. They're a team that's captured my heart, but their robot has not performed at the level that I think deserves to be anywhere close
Right.
to this list. Am I
That's
using this as
horrible now.
inspiration to make them mad and do better? Yes.
Reverse psychology. I love it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's yeah.
That's
Yes.
a gamble. That's a gamble right there, because that could either empower them to go ahead and to prove you wrong, or it could go terribly
They really
wrong.
enjoy proving me wrong, so I think it's going to be that one.
Just
That is
check your
facts. They
donuts
do-
first before you eat them if they're in the shop.
Yes,
is
I
true.
will. All donuts will get tasted by a random volunteer before I consume them.
Smart.
I'm sure
Okay.
Tom Cleveland will be high on that list.
No, as I said, and I want to reiterate, Mr. Cleveland, you're a great guy. We have fun. I love cutting up with you. I will not be giving you a donut. You're a judge. I don't want to impact. I'm perfectly okay with violating my sanctity and showing my biases, but as a judge, I will not do anything that impacts the biases of others. So, no donuts for Mr. Cleveland from me.
Although, if you do want possibly steaks or other items, we can talk about that.
No, not approved. Not approved. Now, without further ado, this is kind of obvious. A lot of people would be like, "Oh, this is the team that's going to be number one because they haven't been mentioned yet, and they should be mentioned yet." It's the one, the only. They won district champs in 2016. They then won it again in 2019, and then they came back and won it again in 2022. You love them. I hope you don't hate them. It's Walton Robotics, team number 2974. They're a fantastic team. I've really gotten to know some of their mentors this year. I think they are the best at just going, we're going to build a simple-ish robot and just drive the brakes off of it. I have not been able to get deep to DE, but the things I've heard, I'm really high on this team. They always play the ranking game well. They're always fantastic. And their intake this year doesn't have wheels, so they're guaranteed to win. They do have wheels, but their primary intake method is the pinch. So just caveat there. So they're guaranteed to win this event. Pound it.
Respect the pinch.
Respect the pinch.
Okay.
Now, prove me wrong.
I see something
Can't.
brewing over there, Kyle. I see something brewing.
Okay. All right. So
I would like to state that Kyle is historically biased against Walton Robotics. So anything he says is not.
Whoa. One second. Let me I gotta check something. Okay, check cleared. Okay. 2974 is number one for me. There you go.
Oh, let's go. Proven right once
Kyle
again.
Fender.
The
Never
check cleared.
expect these words to leave your mouth.
Listen, the check cleared. Okay, listen. Let's be clear. Okay, Thomas may be able to give you nice words on Peach Pit. However, I am the MC for our district championship. So if you're looking for a great intro or any other things, maybe a shout out during our opening ceremonies, just let me know. I take payment in Dogecoin.
My
I'll
price
say,
is
Listen, in Dogecoin, Dogecoin is less money than your donut. So who's the smart one here? Okay.
You can
You're
give
saying it
me
won't
one
go
little
down
heavy donut. You're misinterpreting the value of the donut economy here.
So
I don't know how we ended up here, folks. I thought at one point we were a
It's
reputable FRC talk show, and here we are haggling about the value of a donut.
I'm thinking Sonny's probably like gonna like blood pressure is going through the roof. Like, what are they doing?
My
It's
favorite
called-
is for
it's
those who
called
don't know.
monetization, Sonny.
For those who don't know, we, the PCH crew, have a message, a group chat, if you will, where we message with each other and we discuss topics about events and things. And every time I do one of these, Sonny Gupta likes to mention how I make a ton of mistakes in his group chat. He loves to do it. And every time I sit there and go, you know what, Sonny? You live in DC and you're acting a fool. And then every time I get proven right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Well,
all right, Kyle, back to
Speaking
you.
of proving people right, we have this is just a throwback here, but I'm gonna tap the board on what are some original wagers for the season. So we'll see how right you were, Thomas.
yeah.
I'm not
and
great
I'm
at
gonna need
wagers. I'm
some-
great at lists.
Mm.
One ever says that.
I'm going to
But-
reorganize his top 5. I got 2974 at 1. I did say that I think it's going to be a battle between 2 and 3 with 1102 and 6829. So
Whoa.
I do think that 1102 will be the number 2 ranked
I'm
team.
not predicting where people are going to finish in the
No,
ranking
no, I'm
point
just
race.
talking. Listen,
I'm
I'm
just
just
saying.
saying. I'm
In
just
your
saying.
rankings, not
In my
the
rankings.
disagree.
Not district rankings, but
Okay.
these could end up being the rankings at the end. Just saying. 3 would be 6829. I am going to say that 6919 is unfortunately right outside the bubble at 6. I would
What?
move 1771 up to 4, and I am going to go ahead and to do my South Carolina brother right, and I'm going to put 4451 at 5. Okay.
To our audience, I'm apologize. Kyle, to quote Stephen A. Smith, was acting a fool.
Maybe I am, but listen.
We'll see.
Listen, okay? The dangerous ones are the ones that don't want you to know that they're there, okay? That's all I'm saying. 4451.
Not here.
I put them at 5. I put them at 5. And then 6919, I love you. I love you very much. You're an awesome program. I'm putting you outside the bubble only because you came with the new robot
wrong.
at your second event. I would like to see
He's
how
wrong.
it's going to work out at district championship.
He's
So
wrong.
they are moved to 6, and I did justice by our good friend Chris Wilson and Sid by moving 1771 up to 4. It's Thomas, you monster.
All right.
I'm not a monster. I am correct.
I've got a slightly different version, so we'll just leave Walt alone. We'll just leave, just if they're there, everybody puts them on that shelf, and that's fine. I'm moving 1771 to 2. Follow my logic. So struggled with handoff, right? Worked out handoff a lot better,
right?
And now it's software. So unless they're changing their robot significantly, what they're bringing to this event is software, which I believe they can do. So watch out. So the way I think about this is in game is 10 points. Done. So who's going to out, balance you unless you're, so it really comes down to autonomous modes. So I haven't seen Walton's autonomous modes, but we'll leave them up there and assuming they've got more than they've been showing. 1771 has a 3-piece. 1102 has a 3-piece. That's why they're in my number 3 slot. I'm leaving in 6919 as a sentimental pick at 4, and then 1683 is shown a 3-piece.
Wow, you got rid of 6829.
Yes, I did, because they haven't shown competition.
Auton is overvalued at this competition.
Consistent multiple game piece modes.
I think unlike last year, Auton is overrated. I think
no.
Okay,
think
now
Auton is only a 1-point bonus. So if you can outcycle them and tally up, it doesn't matter.
All right,
it's less about the point bonus and more about scoring more game pieces, so you don't have to worry about scoring them the rest of the match.
Undefended game pieces.
So here's the thing.
Point doesn't matter.
What? The point doesn't matter. Last I checked, the way you
This
were
is not
having
true.
more points than the other.
Well, I'm agreeing with David on the point in general, which is in the top 5. Do you think the number? Any one of those bots is going to do 2 more cycles and tally up than the other ones? Because if the answer is no, then those 2
autonomous.
Those 2 is killer, right?
Yep. So, right, the alliance that'll win it will have a lane side and a bump side autonomous multi-game piece and a third guy that can bounce. Done.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing from Thomas is basically he's taking whose line is it anyway? Basically that the show where everything is made up and the points don't matter. That's what I'm hearing from Thomas.
The
It
game
makes
I'm
sense
saying
with
the
these rankings.
points do matter. You
undefended game pieces matter.
Exactly. That's what I'm talking about. Oh, Thomas, your list disintegrates by the minute.
gonna get proven right once again. I do keep
Well,
my
that
receipts.
and those multi-piece game, they're great for points once you get to playoffs, but they're also a huge value for getting a jump on a link in all your quals matches. The more links you can have on the board, again, you're going to be that much more of a consistent ranking robot.
Yep.
But yeah, I think in addition to those Auton pieces, consistency is going to rule the day. Teams that are controlling as much as they can just to make sure their alliances are always balancing an Auton, so they never have to do a triple balance at the end of their quals matches. And then those robots that are most consistently putting up big numbers for both Auton and Teleop again consistently. Those are going to be the robots that are ranking the first and second, and according to Thomas, also losing the event. So
Wow, great job, Thomas.
you want to be third and fourth on that list, not first and second.
Great. Any other detractors from Thomas's list?
For the record, I would like to state all these people said they agreed with me until they had to make their own lists.
Yeah,
I did not agree with you. I would just like that on the record.
I think I would go Walton, Commodores, and I happen to know Commodores have like 6 or 7 Autons from both sides, so they have, unfortunately, until you get more people you can rely on balancing, you can't show a lot of that stuff. And so they do have more. I would put 1102-3. I mean, they've been very consistent where they're at. I think we're hitting our stride, but you have to reward the consistency across several competitions. I like us at 4, 6829 at 4. And this list was really decided by asking one question. With 3 days, can 1771 address their issues, right? And they did have some handoff issues, not as many as at Gwinnett, but they did have some handoff issues. So I would put 4451 at 5.
Thank you.
It's been pretty remarkable how well that Spindexter has been working for y'all. It's mind-boggling watching it work on the stream just for game piece. Kona pop in, get lined up right.
All right. Well, we played okay at Hartsville.
Right. So there's one thing I want to caveat about the honorable mentions. The pace of this game has gotten really fast. Looking at the week 1 and 3 bots, the game was slower. They were slower. So if they're able to speed up, they're in that mix too, right? It's not as clear that there's a separation there because we're looking at week 3 performances versus week 4s and 5s. Let's see what they bring. I think 4188 has shown the capability to be in that range, and I can see them increasing. 1683 also doing some, they're 3 autonomous, so they're doing improvements too. I'm not sure what the other 2 bots are doing. Well, actually, I know what 4451 is doing. I put them in the top 5, but hey. So I think it really comes to, and there was a previous question, what do you look most for in your first pick? Throw game pieces at that grid. It's just about output, right? And so you get there by being fast in driving, smart in driving, and being fast in intake and fast in placement. The thing that made us so much faster than before, we automated our intake for the high cone. That's the only that's our biggest difference we made, right? So it doesn't take much to take any of these bots and make them a lot faster.
Yeah, and I think, like we've mentioned, I think that top 10-ish teams are all within the margin of each other. That I don't think anybody's got a clear path to just walk away with this event. So
I need to qualify what I just said. That was the biggest change. We got a little more driving practice. We did some robustness stuff, but there was no major we didn't do an auto, right? We brought the same design. And so, so there's more things to it, but the biggest, change for us was not spending 4 seconds trying to get a cone.
Speaking of rebuilding robots and doing wacky things, what are some wild card robots to look out for? Who are the inconsistencies in the field here that have shown flashes, but also the inconsistency to not really be on that top tier list, but who might have a chance of pulling off something interesting this weekend?
1740.
Don't you say it. Don't you say it. Stop. Shut your mouth. No. Bad.
I have
Bad.
wood. I
Bad.
have wood here.
Bad.
I have wood.
Bad. Nope. No. Bad. Stop. Thank you.
All right.
I'm going to give a big shout out to 1414.
Come on. I was going to take that.
I stole it. I
was going to say there's a Toby Keith song. I was good once as good as I ever was. And iHot can be very hit and miss. If they dial in a few things, they could go out there and run the gamut, right? It's one of the things that 1771 said about picking mechanisms last year. It's like, they were really good, and then they just pop off and hit a bunch of them. It's like, I need to have that on my team because I don't want to see it against me. And I think iHot has that ability where they could dial that in. They played well and went deep into the playoffs at Macon, competing up with mechanisms. I think mechanisms is a fast cycler. Their intake is really fast. It's just like they drive and go back and forth. And so, those are two that I think show some promise. I actually think mechanisms that rank 20th in district points, I think they're probably better than that as far as the actual robot.
Right.
Yeah, I think they showed some drastic improvement this past weekend. I don't know if they had it before, but they have this cool. So they have their treadmill mechanism that lines it up between their pincher. But if they grab the game piece the wrong way and wind up holding it upside down, is that they now have the ability to spin these wheels and rewrite the cone so it's the right way up to then place it. So big props to them for getting that little routine sorted out.
I got one that is not 1746 because I was told that I cannot choose them. My choice for a wild card would be Team 8866 Innovation Robotics from Alpharetta, Georgia. I think that they were able to improve well time after time. They had a good first showing at Dalton, being able to get all the way to the finals. It's hard to go up against 2974, but they had consistent output from their robot, and then they just added on to it at Carrollton. Unfortunately, going out by match 13, but they basically pulled it out to right about 107, 104 in that last match before they got knocked out. Quality award winners, I think that they will have a decent showing. And if they are not within the Alliance captain spot and they don't end up being a first pick, depending on, if the schedule works out for them or not, I think that 8866 could be a linchpin in a alliance from 2 to 4 that could easily round out an alliance. Definitely.
Yeah, I've got 2. So 4509 Mechanical Bulls.
They've been mentioned. They were in my honorable.
I know you mentioned them earlier, Thomas. All right, on your honorable mentions list, but I'm going to add them to that list as well. And then 343, Metal in Motion out of South Carolina. They play a straight. They're very fast, and they've been working on more autonomous modes in their cube game. So I'm expecting them. I think what's been holding them back is some of their some autonomous scoring. And once they get that worked out, which they've been working on really hard, they're going to be dangerous.
Gotcha. Well, we've certainly got a pile of teams to look out for this upcoming week. I think everybody's going to be busy coming up with wild strategies to win some matches, put themselves in a better spot to get those tickets punched to Houston. But I think we're going to go ahead and move towards wrapping things up. Any final thoughts from the crew on what we're looking for heading into DCMP?
Do not throw your matches. That is my.
Sure, why not, right?
I'm going to point to my sign saying, remember your gracious professionalism. That's the biggest thing at the end of the day. Carry yourself with that mentality, and remember, we're all in this together, trying to make this the program that's really changing things in this world. But yeah, remember it, show it, embrace it, and pass it along to others.
For the record, I would like to piggyback on that. It is not gracious to call yourself gracious, so you don't graciously accept, you gratefully accept.
Yeah, thank you for that. As the master of ceremonies and the leader of our alliance selection, if you say graciously accept, I will put on Rick Astley on repeat for the rest of that tournament. Do not think I'm kidding. I will do this. And it will play all the rest of our playoffs. Don't test me.
Also, don't as a joke test him just to have Rick Roll playing the entire alliance selections, please.
Because I will do it. I will.
So I'm going to sort of tag on to that and say, at the end of day one, see where you're at. If you're in the top 15, start doing your due diligence to be ready for alliance selection, right? Once you make your first pick, I know our team.
That'd be a first for Georgia this year, I think.
Yeah, I know our team. We like to collaborate with their alliance, so know where everybody's at. Get together jointly, figure out your second pick. When there's 3 or 4 positions away from you, have a list that's one longer than that, so that way you could just check them off as they get picked, or if they don't, then great, you have the top of your list.
I go with the simpler advice for this one. Have fun and meet people. This is going to be a blast. This is going to be an absolute barn burner of a competition. So enjoy the moment while you're in it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm hoping it's a real kickoff to what I hope is a long-term partnership for this Georgia-South Carolina district, which, again, this is the first real time we really get to see it mashed together. Looking forward to quite an event as a result.
Exactly.
But, all right, well, we're going to go ahead and wrap things up. Thanks for joining us for another episode of Peach Pit, and we look forward to seeing you at the district championship event for the Peachtree District. We'll see you later, Peachtree